welcome to Beers with Engineers, a Switch initiative where we get to introduce some of our incredibly valuable team members to our wider community. One of the most fantastic things about building a company is actually the team that you build, and we've been incredibly fortunate to build a team of fantastic, talented, fun, friendly people, and the whole premise of Beers with Engineers is so that you can get to know some of our team better. So today I'd really love to introduce you to Jorde Ranum, who is newly appointed into our technical solutions team. Hi Jorde.
Hi Deb, how are you?
I'm well. So this is Beers with Engineers. Do you have a beer?
I came prepared. I have two. I think I've chosen already, but I've got the Avery White Rascal. It's a Belgian-style white ale, and also a Nuclearis 2 Women Lager. That's a Wisconsin special.
Excellent. Wisconsin. I love that. So I'm drinking also a Belgian beer. It's a Horgarden. It's a wheat beer. And you and I actually share this very similar tastes in beer, so I knew you would probably come up with a Pilsner or a Belgian lager.
Indeed. I've had the Hogarden too. I do like that one.
Yeah. So first of all, maybe you could just tell everybody how long you've been with Switch, what the role was when you first started, and what your role currently involves.
Sure, happy to. My name's Jorde. I've been with Switch 2.5 years now. When I was hired on as a project analyst. So did a lot of different things. It wasn't entirely clear in the beginning what that was going to mean. It was kind of wherever projects needed assistance, I helped in, pitched in. But as time went on, that sort of evolved into more of an account managerial type of role, managing different client accounts, projects, things like that. And so did that for a couple years with Switch, and have been now appointed into our solutions group as a digital solutions engineer. So continuing the account management side of it, but also working with clients to say, what are your needs, what are your gaps, what are you trying to accomplish with a smart building program like Switch, and how can I recommend certain solutions to you?
Right. So I'm really interested in, where you grew up and what you thought you were going to do when you were a little boy, and what you imagined you would study and then go on to do, and how's that different to what really played out?
Sure, great question. Drastically different. I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, so Minnesota, state of hockey, growing up playing hockey, all sorts of different sports as well, but like any kid, I aspired to be a professional sports player. Hockey was the main one. Let's see, as time went on, biology undergrad, so I was certainly gravitating toward the sciences. I was always interested in the outdoors. Did a study abroad program in Australia, actually, and that's when I really started falling in love with the environment and sustainability. As an Australian native, Deb, I'm sure you're well aware of the coral reef bleaching phenomenon that's happening, the Great Barrier Reef and across the globe. And that's when it really struck me, the impact that we as humans are having on the planet and how profound that can be. And so that's when my aspirations for being an environmentalist really started, and then continued that on, decided to pursue a master's in environmental policy and management, focusing on energy and sustainability, and then merged that education with my background in software. I worked as a software project manager for a different company a couple years out of undergrad. And so merged those two things, found Switch, and it was a great fit for me.
So which university and what did you study?
So it was Carleton College, which is in Northfield, Minnesota. It's a small private liberal arts school. Studied biology there, and then for my master's, energy and sustainability at the University of Denver, so not far from our office.
What was the thing that made you move to Denver? Was it just because you applied for that university course and got in, or was it actually a lifestyle or some other move that brought you to Denver?
Great question. It was lifestyle. It was, I was wrapping up my time at that first software company out of college, and was ready for a change. And Denver, my partner and I, Danielle, we love Denver. We had visited. Like I said, we're very outdoorsy, so love the mountains, love skiing. Had been there, have some family around Denver, some extended family, so it was just a great fit for us. We moved, and then honestly figured out both the job and the university later. We just said we're going to Denver, and we'll figure the rest out.
That's good. Yeah, I remember your interview well, and I can't remember who it was that interviewed you, but I remember them coming down the hallway and grabbing me and saying, I've got this young, I'm sure he probably called you a kid, this young kid. Was it Aaron or Dennis?
I actually hadn't met Aaron at Switch. I only met him on the recent Invesco project, but right. It was Jared, I believe.
Right, yeah. So I remember them coming down the hallway and saying, I'm interviewing this young guy, and I just think you should meet him. And because you didn't really have the exact skill set fit for Switch, and I recall asking you how you'd heard about us and you'd read about us in the university magazine. Were we advertising for interns or something like that?
That's right. So, Jared graduated from the University of Denver as well in the same master's program as me. So what happened was I was in my first term at Denver doing a course on green building, and I just so happened to be taking a course specifically or a project for smart buildings. So I was doing this PowerPoint presentation on smart buildings, and the timing was just so ominous that week when I was doing that project, I was looking at the University of Denver newsletter and saw at the bottom the job postings with internships and whatnot, this smart building project analyst position. I thought, wow, that sounds really intriguing. It's just crazy to me that this is happening while I'm doing a project on smart buildings. So reached out, attached my PowerPoint that I was doing for school with my resume, and the rest is history.
Well, I never saw that PowerPoint or the resume. But I think you're a classic lesson to people that are really interested in the smart digital careers of the future, that there isn't necessarily a specific trajectory or a path into these types of careers. You can really come from any of the disciplines or none at all. You just have to have a passionate interest in it. And I think one of the things that I would really commend you on, Jorde, is that you've come into Switch and been a bit of a chameleon. You've been able to assume a number of roles. You've been able to fit in almost wherever, and really just had an incredibly great thirst for learning. You haven't been afraid to step into the unknown. And you're a real credit to yourself, actually, for your ability to be agile and to maneuver and to take an opportunity with both hands and really embrace it.
Yeah, thank you. That's one of the things I enjoy most about Switch, actually, and it's probably not surprising that my job role has been fluid, and I've done a lot of different things for the company, because I, as much as anyone else, don't like monotony, right? I like some variability in my day and learning new things, trying different things. And so, I've adopted that mantra at Switch, and I've been given the opportunity to do that at Switch, and it's resulted in sort of a varied skill set now.
Mm-hmm. So it's not just the style of beers that we share. We actually also, both you and I, have an incredible passion for the work that we do and how that can potentially impact our environment and have a better planet for the future. And I'm interested why you think some people have that calling and others don't. What do you reckon that is that makes us just avidly hell-bent on changing the face of the future, and how can we encourage building owners and operators to care about their buildings and the footprint that those buildings have and the impact that they have? Why does that bite some people and not others, do you reckon?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so a lot to that. I'll try to unpack it. In terms of just environment and sustainability, generally speaking, let's say, I think the thing that draws me toward it, when I was finishing with my time at my previous software company and was looking for a change and trying to decide what that would be, I ran into a website called 80,000 Hours. And the premise of this website is that you have, give or take, 80,000 hours in your career to devote to a cause. And a lot of us don't take the time to think about, okay, that's a finite amount of time, and how do I want to spend that? Like, when I'm done with those 80,000 hours, what do I want to look back on and be proud of and say, you know what, I made a difference, or at least I felt like I made a difference. And for me, that just kept coming back to climate change, in particular catastrophic climate change. I think it's obviously a very important issue, and it's rare that you get to devote your career and your time to an issue that significant and that important. I mean, the consequences of, the worst case scientific estimates are humanity can't survive on Earth. And I can't think of a scenario, more worthwhile of my time than trying to mitigate exactly that. So in terms of my passion and why I'm driven towards it, I'd say that answers that part of the question. And then in terms of building specifically, I was mainly looking between either the built environment or transportation as the two most pollutive sectors, and therefore the two sectors that have the greatest opportunity to make a significant and direct impact. And it just so happened that the building industry was adopting digital solutions at the time when I was finishing a software job and had software background and was looking for that type of environment. And transportation, of course, has technology that's advancing as well, but it's a little different flavor. And so the built environment, I feel like, was a better fit for me with my software background. And then also it does appear to be arguably the most pollutive sector, even more than transportation, and therefore a great opportunity.
At least transportation on the face of it appears to be making some significant inroads into change around electric vehicles, and just really attempting to kind of address their climate impact. The built environment still seems to me 20 years behind where they should be. I mean, it's shocking to think that it's 2020 and we're still talking about buildings using 40% of the world's energy, even during COVID, when a lot of the buildings aren't even occupied. Like, when you get up in the morning, apart from the impact, which is what, that's the reason you and I get up every morning and come to work with as much enthusiasm as we possibly can muster, because we're both decided to commit our entire career to, changing buildings. But apart from that thing, what is the thing that makes you excited about working for Switch?
Sure. So aside from the, of course, impact side, what am I excited about doing for Switch? For me, it's this might sound a little corny, but it's the experience of not only working with our clients, but helping them make a difference, right? And so at Switch, we're making a difference through our clients. Like, we can only do as much as our clients and partners are willing and able to do. And so for me, it's trying to take my excitement and passion about it and knowledge of digital solutions and inform my clients and empower them to make those decisions and get excited about it themselves, and bubble these solutions up the chain until their C-suite is excited about it and pumped about it. So it's empowering them, and then of course building those relationships and expanding those partnerships. It's really fulfilling for me, and it's tougher in the pandemic era where it's all video chats and we don't have any person to person, face to face, but it's rewarding nonetheless.
I mean, for me, it's actually, there's a couple of things. Apart from the environmental impact outcome, which obviously is what I've dedicated my life's work to, if we can achieve even a small result out of that will have made it all worthwhile. But I think also for me, just being able to create something that creative, building a company, and a company that can go global, and building the team. So it's technology, team, company, and all what goes with that is so satisfying. Do you feel like you're part of that? Do you feel some sort of ownership and being part of that initiative beyond the vision and the impact statement of Switch?
Absolutely. And I 100% do. And to put that into perspective for me, I guess, I've referenced that last software company I had worked for, and that company was already big and established, and there were 10,000 employees, and it was very disparate and hard to feel like your individual contribution was worthwhile. Now, I'm sure it was to an extent, but given that the company was so big and established, it just didn't feel like there was as much camaraderie or the team dynamic as it is at Switch. Now, Switch, in comparison, give or take 50 full-time employees, you do have a very meaningful contribution with your individual actions, and you have the capacity to build more meaningful relationships with your colleagues as well. I've noticed that's probably one of the biggest reasons I've been at Switch for 2.5 years and plan to continue working for Switch is the camaraderie with colleagues. It's a fantastic work environment, and again, it's obviously tougher in the Zoom age, but we find ways like Beers with Engineers to have some fun and reconnect.
Yeah. And what would you say to, there's obviously a huge number of people globally that are at home now and have pretty poor prospects for work and careers over the next year or 2 years. There's going to be a pretty significant disruption in the growth of the global economy. Do you have any kind of thoughts or ideas for what people could be doing at home to kind of think about a post-COVID or even a mid-COVID career change and what they could perhaps be thinking about in terms of skilling up?
Sure, absolutely. There's plenty of opportunities for digital skill up, software skill up. I'll probably always defer back to software. There's so many different software suites. Even your more basic ones like Microsoft Office. We've all used it, but there are some really advanced things you can do with Excel or different project management tools that a lot of us don't know about if we haven't done that in our job. And if you're considering a career change or considering pursuing a software-like industry where you have some flexibility to work remotely and perhaps some more job security in this sort of digital era, then fully take advantage of the possibilities in the training sessions. A lot of them are free, actually. There's a couple I'm interested in, and you can get into them with little to no cost, at least initially, and then take that as far as you want in terms of certification and what have you.
Yeah, well, I think you're a perfect example of the digital native that's been able to take some background education, a huge passion, an enormous amount of self-learning, and basically carve yourself out a career. And if you think about, if all buildings are going to be smart, connected, digital in the future, and we're going to have, 50 billion connected devices and all of that, there just really isn't the digital workforce to fulfill the rollout, the implementation, the support of that type of global initiative. And one of the things that I think is probably not apparent to most people sitting at home is just what an opportunity this digital transformation really could invoke. Often people just think about automation and digitization as a way of killing jobs, but I actually think that and Switch is a classic example. We've created jobs that literally didn't exist 10 years ago, and if you think about all of the services companies that are servicing buildings, and you've worked closely with some of those people that are on client accounts, and I think they're really exciting careers for young people.
Indeed, and regarding the buildings industry specifically, we talk about how COVID can hit the building industry, using retail as an example, right? A lot of retailers, even the big retailers, are struggling right now with the in-person volume, right? And that'll persist, and that probably persist beyond COVID, even when COVID's wrapped up and we're back to quote unquote normal. That will persist, but the reality is that the built environment is like buildings are huge assets. They're very, very expensive. They take a long time to construct. They're already built. And so even if the tenant dynamics change or occupancy dynamics change, someone will see an opportunity in that building and will elect to use it. Now that use case will likely be a lot different, but that's where I get excited about smart building platforms and smart building technologies, is that technologies like Switch will enable those spaces to be controlled remotely and to operate more efficiently and give them more flexibility to be used in ways that we can't even foresee today, right? And so I feel like that is an important piece, that those assets aren't going away. Tenants might change, occupancy might change, but those buildings are still going to be there and someone's going to use them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like who knows how, half these commercial office towers are going to be repurposed over the next, 12 months to 2 years if it really is a gigantic trend to work from home. It's interesting. I just spent 5 months working from home and just got back into the office last Friday for the first time, and I can't tell you how exciting it is to be back in an office. It actually feels, like putting your big girl pants on and getting dressed up and going back to work. And I think there's energy from working in a team and meeting with the team and being able to be in person. So I personally do not believe the office is going away, but I do think that what COVID has done is going to irreversibly change the way people think about the office. It's going to be a place to gather rather than a place to work, and I think there'll be a lot more spaces, smaller spaces. I think people definitely over commuting. I think there'll be less business travel. I think there is going to be some really significant changes after this, but I think there's an enormous opportunity to reinvent how we present space to companies like ours. I mean, we still have space in Denver, Singapore, Sydney, and we'll have space back in Manila. We're always going to want space, but what does that space look like in the future as opposed to what it was in the past?
Exactly. Yeah, I anticipate we'll see a lot more shared workspaces on a rotational schedule. Yeah. I think we'll see a lot more, employees don't have their own desk. A company has reserved 10 desks 2 days a week, and they rotate through, and other companies share those desks and what have you. In terms of, I think, meeting space, I think we'll see a lot of conference room bookings for when you have important or large meetings or when you need to have a face-to-face with a client or even your own employees. But in terms of that permanent space, I think it's going to be a lot more fluid, and therefore we're going to need solutions that allow that to happen more seamlessly.
Yeah, and then the technology that supports that. We need technology that allows you to fire up and fire down buildings and spaces within buildings. We'll need technologies that inform people about how that space is being used. Technology is going to become even more important. I think that is one of the big things that has definitely happened from this pandemic is the lack of data, the lack of remote control, the lack of technology has really caught a lot of people out. They've had to send teams out to hibernate buildings. They've had to send teams out to add, additional security, for example, and they've had to ramp up their cleaning. There's a lot of things that people have had to do, but the big thing that's going to come out of all of this is you're going to have to be providing data to your tenants, and if you're not providing it, they will install the IoT devices, which nowadays are, off the shelf, a few $100 and give you the data. And woe betide, I think, the landlords that don't have the data before the tenants have it.
Indeed. I mean, landlords, it's going to be on the onus of the landlord now to prove that they have a healthy work environment, right? Indoor air quality, all of the metrics we think of, space temperature, humidity, interior CO2, tenants are going to demand that. They're already demanding that. And they're going to say, you know what, unless you can prove to me that this space is comfortable and healthy, I'm not going to go in.
Yeah. Let's switch back to what you were doing before COVID, which was equally as important, I think, for the growth of the industry, which is what I would call loosely digital facilities management. So that's the idea that technology can inform you of the problems that are going on in buildings well ahead of when any human would notice or in your scheduled maintenance. And if technology can inform you, then you can potentially triage those problems remotely. You can potentially inform your clients and provide a better customer relationship. I'd love to talk through how you were working closely with a retail client that was using our technology throughout all of their stores, and also just the other parties that you were dealing with in that on that account, and how they might have thought about Switch at the beginning and how that relationship grew.
So it was a unique scenario. So we were brought in to service the end retail client, and it turned out that they contracted out all their facility management work to a third party company, right? They weren't doing that work in house. And so when Switch was brought in, we had not had a working relationship with that third party management company at all whatsoever. So it was a brand new relationship, and I'm sure, before I was brought on the project, there was maybe some hesitation or combative nature, but it quickly grew and progressed into quite a altruistic relationship where they found out, okay, hey, look, if I use Switch, if I use this digital solution, I'm going to find out about problems at my store much more quickly. I can triage, troubleshoot, and in some cases even resolve them much more quickly. And at the very least, I can schedule that work to be done much more quickly. Now, even after Switch was adopted, that client proceeded with, they were doing semi-annual preventative maintenance visits. So they would service all the HVAC equipment before the heating season once, and then once before the cooling season. So they continued that work, but it was made much more efficient because Switch would find things that, let's say, were lower priority but still needed to be addressed. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't dispatch a tech right away. They would bundle those opportunities for when that preventative maintenance visit was coming. So it was more efficient because you could, lower priority items, you could bundle together, do it all at once, and you weren't forgetting about them or not having addressed them. And then in terms of the high priority items, you were made aware of them in real time and able to triage and resolve them. So this third party that was actually providing that facility management and project management service found that Switch was a tool that made them more efficient and made their metrics to the end client look much better. And that's why they said, we're gonna cooperate with these guys, and it's a great relationship.
Do you think maybe in the future that we'll be enlisted into accounts like that by the property management companies? Do you think that's a trend that we would expect?
I certainly would expect that trend. I think it's more likely to happen in scenarios where the end client doesn't have their own facility management team. But even if they do, I service other accounts where it's large commercial real estate. We were talking about retail before, mm-hmm. but large commercial real estate where the client has a full facility management team at their disposal to resolve issues. They don't have to contract that out at all, but they still find that no one's policing the building automation system. Like, how often does it happen when technicians or facility managers service a piece of equipment and maybe they need to bypass something or put it in manual operation for a bit while they're waiting for a part, and it's so easy to forget that unit is now overridden and to go back, release the override, put it back on a schedule. And so even seemingly simple things like that, Switch can detect in real time, and it actually has really substantial implications for energy and then monetary savings. So I think we'll certainly see it a lot in scenarios where the client doesn't have a facility management team at their disposal, but even in those scenarios, there's value to be had.
Interesting. Let's talk about DX Cubed. Obviously, it's a incredibly important initiative and product launch from Switch. What's your take on DX Cubed, and why do you think it's important?
DX Cubed, digital device discovery. Yes, it's huge. The first question when you talk about adopting a smart building solution and embarking on a smart building journey is what's on my network, right? What assets do I have on my network, and where am I maybe vulnerable, and how do we address those things? And so, we've had it before where our client's really excited about the smart building prospect, and once it comes time to actually touch their network and start integrating devices, we come to find out, hey, we've got some issues and things we need to address before we can really proceed. And so DX Cubed is our first step now in every smart building project, where we say, let's plug in our appliance, let's pull your network, let's see what's on your network. If there's any vulnerabilities or issues, let's address that right away, and then we can move forward and be really, really informed about what's on our network and network speeds and times, and not have any concerns about network crashing or overloading.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's, the world of smart buildings feels like it's a big step for a lot of our customers. And, this is just such an important first phase, is just to understand what is the state of your buildings in terms of digital readiness, and how can we help you assess those buildings really quickly and really cost effectively to let you embark on that journey with some confidence.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I look forward to it. I mean, even on existing accounts where we're fully integrated to the building automation system, I still think there's value to be had there, and just say, what are our network speeds? Are they meeting our requirements? Do our controllers have multiple firmware versions, and therefore when updates are pushed out, certain things aren't updated, and that can cause problems down the line? So it's certainly targeted toward new projects and will be very beneficial for those, but even existing ones, I think there's good outcomes to be had by running that scan.
Yeah. Well, Jorde, it's been an absolute delight to share a beer with you, even if it is remotely and virtually, but always a pleasure. You've been a fantastic addition to the Switch team. I just really want to reiterate that you're an incredibly valuable member of our growing group of engineers, and we hope that we know that your future is going to be bright and shiny wherever you are, but we hope that you continue the journey with Switch.
As do I, Deb. Cheers. Thanks for the time. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.